Nord.
Hello.
Nord.
What's up?
You know what's even funnier than 75?
76.
76, baby. It's episode 76 of the Strip Poker Night of the Inventory Podcast. I'm your host, spnanon, back once again. Tell your friends with my new co-host. My main account is a Nord. New villain. New evil, harsh, bad cop critic. He's taken the scene by storm, and he is ready to trash these pieces of shit. Nord, please introduce yourself. Give your full villain speech.
I'm out for
They're
blood.
not actually pieces of shit. Don't worry.
I'm out for blood tonight. But, hello everyone. I'm Nord, back again. Here to talk about some interesting new stuff. A few new characters on main, a few new epilogues, and a couple of testing characters.
Mm-hmm. Technically, the testing characters will be next episode, but we always record these two at a time. Main thing on the agenda is various art and epilogue update stuff, plus one testing roster edition. That should be a good time. And it's especially going to be a good time because we brought food this time. Our guest, still a Latke, semicolon TDS142. I'm not sure really what he wants to be called sometimes, but he does have a profile picture of a Latke, which is a Jewish potato pancake, which sounds good to me. I'd like some.
They are very good. And just go, Latke's fine.
When are we going to have the SPNatI potluck? We just like post pictures of food in a chat.
I'll go first.
All right.
You can imagine the taste of this delicious shortbread I made.
So Latke has been around for a while. He has developed a number of characters. He can go more in depth on it, but he made his first effort was, I think, Levitane from Fire Emblem Heroes. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right. So dark-skinned girl with like the dead sister, big sword, which is also called Levitane. She's got the nice body stocking. Very nice surprise to me personally, because it was an early example of I guess a Fire Emblem character that I liked. I was like, oh god, another Fire Emblem character, and she's from a mobile game. Like, this isn't going to be good. But she ended up being, stoic girl in a tight suit. I'm down for that, baby. Always and forever.
Going to all your
and he
tastes.
came back with a. Go ahead.
I just said it was hit all your marks, or appealing to all your tastes.
Not all of them. I'm not a big fan of the medieval times. I prefer running water and indoor plumbing.
Fair enough.
But she's got some good stuff in there. He also came back with a second effort. Mikan Tsumiki, I think.
Yeah.
Is her name from Danganronpa 2?
Yes.
Yes, she's from the. She's like a very nervous nurse. Or like a nurse in training, always bandaged up and eager to please, very deferent and demure. And then we will be talking about his third effort next episode, but we've got him on for these two for now. So quite the varied selection. But Latke, would you like to say anything more about your projects and what you've done for the game?
Yeah, I'm not the fastest developer. It takes me a while to make characters, but I enjoy trying different personality types, I guess.
Yeah. How long have you been around? Like 2020, 2021?
Yeah, 2020 is when I really started getting active in developing. I think my first character was like summer of 2020. I think that's when Levitane went on test.
We have the numbers here, the 27th of the 6th. So, yeah, middle of summer, 2020.
And then Mikan was 2021 in November, I think, and Jamigo was July 2023.
Mm-hmm. We'll be talking a little bit more about your more recent testing roster edition, Shamiko, in the next episode. But yeah, he's never been like, you've been around, you've chatted, but I think you're one of the quieter devs. Kind of always been in the background.
Yeah, I think it's called chill before.
I don't think you participate in a lot of like policy discussion.
Yeah, just not good at figuring out what to say. I'm just more chill, I guess.
Yeah, but you make good stuff, and I'm always happy to see what you've been working on. We'll talk about that later, though. For now, though, we have some main roster additions, and well, sort of. There's not too many character additions, but there's a lot of side stuff we like to talk about as well, epilogues and art updates. Nord, can you lead us into each of those?
Sure thing. The first thing on the agenda is actually something I made. Gloria's Epilogue.
What a surprise. Nord made something.
I know, I couldn't help myself. This is Going Down with Gloria, an epilogue exclusively for female players. It's just like what I did for Petra. This is a rather short, simple in scope kind of thing that it's only a couple scenes long. I used a lot of narration to really carry the brief story of this forward, and I can tell you a fair bit about some of the choices I made, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it first, both of you.
All right, go ahead, Latke.
Sure. I really enjoyed it. I like that it was. Enjoyed the narration. I don't look at too many logs. Like they're not what I come to the game for, but I thought it. I thought it was a good way. Like it made it unique and just helped it flow along. Like you said. I also like the lack. Like this isn't necessarily a bad thing in other epilogues, but I like the lack of the grayed, non-distinct body. But that was also, like, I don't, like, once again, I don't know how common that is. Like, I saw it in, this will be discussed later, but I also saw it in, Miku's epilogue. I don't know, I hope it also feels more, like, I guess, personal.
Mm-hmm.
I just like how, like, to the point it is, especially because, like, you get these epilogues, like, right at the end of the game. I feel like if you spent, like, not that the plot ones with a lot of plot are bad, but like how it's like right after the game you get right into it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. There's a place for like super long, story rich, like almost like an episode of the source material kind of epilogues, and then there's ones like this where it's like the character just kind of wants to bone you, so let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Bigoted dev mod erases female people of color. Women of color, forces the player to be white in Gloria's epilogue, is what I'm getting.
If you want to spin it that way, sure.
Look out for the headline.
I'm a big fan of ghost people for the player. I think it's better just to ignore that issue entirely.
Fair enough.
Having said that, you do have to pick. Just by the nature of things, you do have to force some characteristics onto them, like penis or boob size or something, or even something as simple as if you have like an eye-to-eye perspective with the character. Like for instance, I make the perspective of the player a little bit taller than the characters, even some of the girls that are on the taller side, because I would figure most guys both are and want to be taller than the girl. Which, not everybody does, but not everybody is, but that's kind of a choice you have to make.
Short erasure. Unacceptable. In theory, I could go through and swap some sprites out, maybe dependent on markers. It would take a fair bit of effort and calculation on my part, though, when this is just something I did in 2 days, as with Petra's epilogue. The choice of like giving the player an actual skin tone is like, because it's either featureless grey or you're like H game protagonist blue or pink and slightly transparent, and it doesn't really look all that appealing. It's not very immersive.
I don't mind translucent blue.
I mean, it has its place, but it's like, yeah, why not try it like this?
Mm-hmm.
I made an effort going into this to avoid a problem that a lot of epilogues have had in the past when they're made for a female player, which is usually it's a variation of a epilogue for male players, and so things just kind of get swapped out. Like a dong becomes a set of fingers, for example, and it's understandable why that's
Guilty
the case.
as charged,
because,
Your Honor.
yeah, it's a lot of effort to come up with a epilogue scenes in the first place, so I get why that happens. But before I did this, the last from the ground up for female players epilogue, I believe, was Megumin's epilogue. And
Right.
so I made an effort to get input from female developers, and even one of my friends from outside of SPNatI on would this be okay? And
You have friends outside of SPNatI?
I know it's hard to believe, but I do have a life outside of SPNatI. Don't ask too many questions about that.
Well, that's why your main account is a Nord. We're stuck with
Exactly.
the side one.
In general, I'm happy with how this turned out, and the reception's been quite positive. Throwing female players a bone. Many jokes made about not knowing what epilogues are if you play as a female.
Like how it came right after the subreddit post came right after the one about the lack of epilogues for female players.
Yeah, by Nicole.
Way to call me out on the fingers thing, because that's still more effort than what most variations did, which was just use a strap-on dildo.
The fingers thing is much more excusable than the strap-on just materializing out of nothing.
I believe one of the big final scene of this is scissoring. I believe you asked around is that a thing that lesbians actually do?
That's definitely
that men made up.
It's one of those things where the input I got was it is more of a thing for male viewers, but that doesn't mean lesbians don't do it at all IRL, and the use of fingers getting involved makes it more more realistic by 5% or something. And in general, I was told, yeah, go for it, so I did.
Yeah. As an occasional consumer of Yuri content, more as a byproduct of other pursuits, but scissoring is pretty common in porno and Rule 34 and stuff. Never really been that into that. It just seems like something uncreative men came up with, because they can't picture sex without groins bumping into each other, which says a lot about how they might be in bed. But yeah, fingers and tongues are the way to go, and throwing that in, I think, definitely adds some sensuality to it.
Mm-hmm.
Even taking that approach. I mean, even the dildo thing, that's another thing that just seems like uncreative men. It's well, how do you have sex without a penis? There has to be some substitute for a penis. That's the first joke everyone fucking makes about Maya and Jura. It's just oh, I bet dildos must be real popular on Majere.
Yeah.
It's well, they wouldn't exactly want a image of a male body part proliferating, would they?
In general, I can give some advice as a takeaway from my learning experience of making this epilogue, which was an idea I came up with over the span of a week and then actually executed in 2 days. But just ask if you're unsure about something, because we have a large enough community now around the game that you can get some pretty insightful comments from people women looking for lesbian content can just tell you, here's what you can do, and it would be good. And it's true for just about anything. If you're unsure of would this content work or not, or if you're struggling for ideas. Now that's about all I have to say about this epilogue, really, just as a good takeaway for learning from it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said you were motivated by the lack of female-centric epilogues. I have written some of my own, and I mean, the old ones for Maya and Jura are in the game, since they are, on a crew full of women, planet full of women. Makes sense to have their own epilogues, and they do. Although I still did sometimes just go to the finger banging method. because that's what I had preset animations for, more or less.
Hey, bro.
Be looking to diversify the experiences a little bit. But can you talk a little bit about just like why Gloria? Why did you take some of the approaches that you did?
Why Gloria? Just very simply because she's just the kind of character that is like quite thirsty for the player all game, regardless of if you're man or woman. And so I thought, yeah, she'd be the kind of one where you'd, shag straight away. So why not?
Fair enough.
It really isn't. There's not really much depth to why Gloria, aside from female character that is into women, like has lines already written towards the player.
You don't need the spnanon nitpicking power hour. Are you surprised? Are you ready?
All right, let's go.
So I think I might have bug reported this, but like the foreshortening on this one pose with Gloria eating you out, I just don't think it quite works with the player's legs. They just look kind of stubby.
Yeah. Having not looked at it for a couple of days, I can see issues with the foreshortening. It was quite tricky to do this much in the first place.
Oh, I get you. I'm gonna be wrestling with it myself. I think you just gotta like show like the calves bent even more. That's something. It's like when you're learning to foreshorten stuff, it's really, or just like make stuff look 3D in general. It's so tempting to like make every part visible, and you just don't have to at all, and your brain will fill in the gaps. And ironically, if you try to make everything visible, then everything just looks flat and seems off.
Something that I didn't notice at the time, but it's like now that you pointed it out.
The more art you do, you start to, I don't know, you just develop an eye for this sort of thing. Like the hair flipping. First time I ever made Maya's model, I didn't think about that, now that I was making custom hair anyway. But started to notice, and now I can't not notice. That's just what learning new skills does. It just ruins everything for you because your tastes become too exacting.
I know what you mean. Looking back at what you've done before and like, I could do that so much better now, but I don't have time to fix it.
But the unwashed plebeians just love it all. They look at a perfectly on model like representation, just like, full character, just pixel perfect, like straight out of manga, right? And then they'll look at like garden variety cookie cutter Patreon bimbo bullshit with balloon bodies, and they will see those two things as exactly equal and enjoy them both. Other thing, I was surprised that there was so much narration. Like it was really driven by narration and like describing what you were doing and like what you were talking about with Gloria. Because like one of the main appeals of Gloria is the accent, at least in my mind, and the flirty personality she has. And there's a bit of that, but it's funny that you felt the need for narration. It was kind of like Nagatoro's epilogue, where she like the player spoke a lot, despite not needing that in game. And it seems weird to suddenly shift gears for an epilogue in terms of like what drives things.
That's fair. It was entirely because I was playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 and the narrator is ever present in that game, so I had a narrator's voice in my head at the time.
There's like 2 more characters you want to make from that game now, right?
Yes.
You're not even done with your Xenoblade kick.
I know. The boulder pushing never ends.
One must imagine.
How do you find the time for like these 200-hour RPGs?
Being unemployed.
How to do it.
God, I wish that were me. One last thing, the animation in general is pretty nice. I think you're steadily getting better. There was some nice squash and stretch on some of the motion. Oh, like I think it was like when you were eating her out, like the tongue, I think had some nice squash and stretch, if I remember.
Yeah, just a very basic thing, but yeah.
Pretty good overall, especially for what it was trying to achieve. You are the patron saint of the quick and dirty. Oh yeah, I did have one more thing. This is just a me thing. I think at some point the narration called it like called the vagina like your sex. That's something that like Comey does a lot too. You see it a lot in like fan fiction or like horny romance novels. I don't know. It always seemed kind of weird and melodramatic to me.
I think this has come up on the podcast before. There are no good terms for that anatomy. There's nothing you can say that's like great. There's only okay and like acceptable.
Mangpo.
She's not Japanese. She's fucking British, innit?
Same thing. Tiny island that tried to conquer the world.
One got a bit further than the other.
And they both put out a lot of good media. Yeah. So do either of you have anything else to say about Gloria's epilogue? Nord, the man who made it, and Latke, the man who played it.
I've said all I have for it. Latke?
Yeah, same.
Okay. Well, take us into the next topic, Nord.
Takatoshi from 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim has gotten a not insignificant art update. Alias has put the effort in to I'm pretty sure it's a total imagery work because it's redone his hair in his hair is entirely different. His body, I think, is a little more muscular. His forefoot has changed as well. He now gets on his knees. I believe I had one of what his hair looked like before as well.
Yeah, he got a massive bulge added. That's the new hot tech, is custom boobs and custom bulges. What a transition in this podcast, having gone from hardcore lesbian scissoring to one of the gayest men. Gay sex, gay bi curiosity, hulking hunks and tiny twinks.
Is that yakisoba pan in your pants, or are you just happy to see me?
Latke, what did you think of Takatoshi art update?
I think it makes a good, like, I guess it's not too recent at this point. I don't remember how long since like limb size adjustments have been possible in KKL, but I think it makes he makes like good use of it. I'm commenting on art, but
it was as recent as version 106, I believe. So a few months at most.
I feel like Alias has really been like doing like great work with like art reworks, like both of like CAGs in the past and this one. Like really just like taking it like, so I'm just trying to figure out my words there. Sorry if I stutter a bit. Too many notes for this. Taking advantage of the new tech, I guess. And like I didn't even notice the hair until I looked at a comparison between the two. But they're better styled, like with the more red, like it curves more to the side, like I guess, like. So I don't have too much to say, but I just like how it looks.
It looks a little slicker and longer.
Sorry, I'm not the best on commenting on art, but I just generally think it's like a good improvement over the previous model, and it's not like it's a bit subtler, and I think that works for it too.
What is your art experience? Have you done the art for your characters?
I don't. Pretty much all three of my characters have models made by a different creator, but I've handled all the posing and I occasionally do like some adjustments, like I added pubic lines to Mikan, and I haven't done anything for Shamiko yet, but I'm planning some adjustments for her. So mostly posing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else to say? Or should we pass it on to Nord?
Pass it on.
Pay it forward.
You made a great point there, bringing up that Alias has done this before with Cagliostro. I think it shows how like great Alias is as a developer. That like he's 2 for 2 now in getting his characters onto main roster with art that is like already good, and then with no like requirement or need to do it. He just goes out of his way to make his characters look even better, and in both cases, even more source accurate. All the official art I can find of Takatoshi has him at like side angles, so I can kind of get why it was hard to capture his hairstyle in the first place. But I think even just looking at this piece of art here, you can tell the hair is already more accurate. It is more slick and wavy at the back.
Well, the default model seems to mostly just have like default hair that's a little prettied up.
Mm-hmm.
I think, was Takatoshi Alias's first project? I don't know. He's done a lot of stuff. It was an early one for sure, right?
I believe so.
His first, yeah, it was his first solo project. His first writing was with me reworking Lux for the Masquerade.
Oh, okay.
And then it was either Takatoshi or Barbara he did next, but I want to say it was Takatoshi first, and
I want to say that too.
yeah. But Takatoshi, so handsome. Like, my God, Alias, you've done great work here. There's definitely a case for, like, now that we can just scale up hands and arms with, you know, sliders within Kisake without having to fiddle around with image imports and the like just to get bigger hands. Male models going forward are going to be so much better in general because you won't have the tiny T-Rex hands that, like, now that I notice it, I can never unnotice it, and I'm going to be telling everyone making male models, make the hands bigger and the forearms longer by a few ticks. Because you can. It's so easy.
Moral obligation.
Yeah.
We moved on from this point, but I just checked, and he was released before Barbara.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, you did it with Yuno.
I did do it with Yuno. I wasn't going to mention it, but yeah,
It's a game all about jerking off, man. You might as well jerk yourself off.
No, yeah, I did do it with Yuno. I scaled up his hands just to get rid of the T-Rex hand problem, and
it's my podcast, and I'll talk about Mei and Jura for an hour if I feel like it.
But
as the co-host, you're free to talk about your projects all you want.
But yeah, this art rework is phenomenal. It didn't even require quick pass because it fundamentally didn't even really change anything about Takatoshi. Because, like, it didn't change his strip order or anything. It was just what's already there is now 10 times better. And what was there was already good.
I mean, it just gave him a much more masculine build overall. Now that's a lot easier with the sliders.
Yeah, definitely.
He just looks like bigger and bulkier and broader.
Just interrupt again. Sorry, I misread it. Sorry, Barbara was a month before Takatoshi, so
God damn it!
Misread that. 4/27, 03/12 versus for April 27th, 2021. Barbara was March 12th. Takatoshi was
no. Barbara was December.
Okay, I had it right the first time then.
Yeah,
I'm so confused.
I'm not doing this very well.
Takatoshi was released in April. Barbara was released in December.
So I had it right the first time.
Yeah.
Sorry about this.
So, commenting on the art itself, I'd probably just be repeating the praise that the others said. I had some thoughts just kind of playing with him again after some time because, you know, it's been a while since he was added to the game. And if you have, I know, like Latke, for instance, you said you know, maybe you're not the best at commenting on art, but did you just have any like general thoughts on him? You know, having revisited him.
I just generally like playing with him. Like, he's just like I'm not, as someone who's like not really into men that much. I just like into men all that much. I just like, he's just personality. Like, he's just a fun like character to play with. Like, I feel like he bounces off targets really well. It's just, I don't know, I enjoy having him around.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Nord?
That's how I felt as well. Just really solid all around. Didn't really run into any repeating dialogue, and everything he said was like just well crafted, well written. I still don't really know what the plot of 13 Sentinels is, but I feel like that's because I'm pretty sure it involves time travel as like its core concept. So maybe
I think it's like 13 different like Japanese high school students. Are you surprised? Are all time warped to like one location, and they have to all pilot giant robots to defend Japan from kaiju. Again, are you surprised?
check it out.
So I think they all meet up in the 80s. Takatoshi's from the 40s. Some of the others are from the future. Falls in love with a femboy, obviously from the future times, when all the estrogen in the water has turned us into twinks.
God. I know. Yeah, I remember him being from the past because he brings it up, talking about all these like modern wonders, and it's Monday and stuff.
I mean, I always love characters like that are reacting to something we find mundane. Yeah, like his model was improved. Going back to him though, I mean, I'm sure Alias kind of feels the same way, but looking back on his old work, but like some of his poses, his dialogue felt kind of old. A lot of his dialogue is just like either apropos of nothing or like bringing up his friends and like other members of the cast, which is something you kind of do for easy lines early on, even if it's not always fitting to the situation. And then like his poses, I'm sure he's got some new poses in there, but a lot of them I remember don't really seem changed. He just sort of applied the pose work to the new model, which is fair. I understand not wanting to do that, especially when you have as many characters as Alias does. But it is a nice opportunity to go back and assess what, like, is this really like the body language I wanted to get across?
Yeah, I
feel
feel
like
like
other things. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just to touch on one of your comments. I feel like out of context comments about the characters' friends and or co-workers and their setting, that's generally kind of an unavoidable part of like what some sponsorships require, which is I didn't get enough of a sense of his setting, so please add some dialogue that references that. Add 10 lines for that, and it's really hard to weave that in organically. So some lines are bound to stand out as like being out of context.
Yeah,
I think that's just kind of inevitable.
well, it's referencing the source, but that's the only thing it's doing. I think the best kind of lines are something that kind of informs you about the source. It has some information embedded about the source, but like it's addressing somebody at the game. Something about like the source that informs their perspective is what I'd say like the ideal line is. I noticed especially, it felt like he needed an eating pose, like with a bite taken out of his yakisoba pan or pan, and then like him chewing. I feel like he still doesn't have that. I didn't see that. I know that would take some custom work. And when he's on his knees and doing the new masturbation poses, I felt like he didn't move around too much. Even his hand doing the jerking motion, I feel like didn't move around that much, or at least I didn't notice.
Well, were you looking at it?
Yes. I mean, no. No.
Got him.
Recording.
And his dick is pretty big, so like, I feel like you should be able to notice the hand motion. Really wanted to see him talk to Yae, who we discussed on the last podcast. I don't. I mean, he's pretty old and Yae is pretty recent, so I don't think they have any lines to each other. That would be pretty interesting because like she's kind of cutting in on his action for like old school Japanese character, that nationalist type who doesn't trust foreigners because Takatoshi's from the 40s, but he's from like the 1600s. I actually got it wrong last time. I was mistaken. I was a fool. I was a fake weeb. I said the Edo period was when Japan opened up, but it was actually when Japan was closed. That was the Sakoku period for the most part, or that was the policy at the time. Japan was just like sealed off from the outside countries, except for the Dutch, for like 200 years. And what I was thinking of was the Meiji restoration in the 1800s, but no, Yae is from like the 1600s. Even older. This Takatoshi guy, he's got nothing on her. He's been tainted by the foreigners already. Just doesn't know it.
They would have a fair bit to talk about, yeah.
I know. I like. I did that a little bit with Ryuko. Honestly, I didn't get too far with her, but I remember like targeting like Miko. Like I remember they told me about you in history class or something. It's like meeting George Washington.
A little different from the pictures.
Well, I guess like Oda Nobunaga would be like George Washington or something, or Tokugawa Ieyasu, but whatever. The Weeb Power Hour. Do either of you have any other thoughts on Takatoshi's art update?
Covered everything I thought.
He's hot. That's my closing statement.
He's gay. You know, well, I shouldn't say that. He's bi.
He is so gay. Well, yeah.
He's bi the way.
He's bi, but he's also so gay.
When are we going to have his giant robot in the game?
The giant mecha spin-off version of SPNatI.
I could participate in that. Okay. Next topic.
I've forgotten the name of it. 1 second.
Posted the agenda, bro. Come on.
The next topic on the agenda is Hatsune Miku in Backstage Surprise for male players. An epilogue in which you get to attend a brief Miku concert, and then you get to go backstage and bang her. Pretty simple stuff. I have a fair bit to say about this, but Latke, please lead us in with your thoughts.
And we're 2 for 2 on simple, to the point epilogues today. And you guys had like a bit more build up, but I don't like. I started like reading, like getting into the build, like not build up, I guess. So like the concert setup, and then you go backstage, and she's like immediately, "Oh, you want to fuck?" And it just caught me by surprise. I guess I thought it was like a bit sudden. Like it's not really a problem. It's just like I think maybe they could do like a bit more like not in like interaction. I guess I'm not quite sure, but I just felt a bit sudden for me. I really like the animations for the most part. Sometimes I wish they moved slightly faster, but I guess that's his own taste. And I'm not quite sure how to phrase this. So like during the year, I don't know how it could be fixed, I guess, but during the blowjobs scene at the start, it almost looks like it's phasing through her face, kind of like it's hard to tell where it's going in. I guess it just looked a bit odd to me.
It's clipping a little.
Yeah, it looked like it was clipping a little. It was phasing your face a bit. It didn't take me out of the experience, but it was definitely noticeable. But
I noticed that. I almost think it kind of works like to sell the stretching a little bit, although you should probably be more purposeful with that.
Mm-hmm. Overall, I enjoyed it. That's
Nord?
all I got.
In general, I think it has some good content. There's some stuff that I think could be improved slightly, and there's some stuff that may take a lot more effort to fix or change. I will say that in general, making an epilogue is, aside from being a mental hurdle in of itself, takes a lot of like different effort than actually making a character does. So I'll give props to Tweetsy for even like trying to make an epilogue. That said, I think my biggest critique of this boils down to this being sort of a rip of Saki's epilogue from Zombieland Saga, and it's even to the point where
it's literally a rip.
It's literally a rip-off. It reuses most of the background assets. Something that only clicked for me when I was replaying it earlier is that even like the doors numbered 1 to 5 are like the 5 members of the zombie idol group.
Confused.
Because in Saki's epilogue, you knock on door number 2 because Saki's number 2.
You see Saki's uniform in the closet.
I was about to mention that. You see Saki's uniform in the closet. What made me notice this. Is like what made me notice how like blatant it is.
I had to look it up, but like the kanji that's on the sign in her room is like 2, like as in she's number 2 in the idol group. So there's also that. But yeah, the uniform is the main thing. I'm gonna assume that Tweetsy asked Solitaire for permission to use it. And if not, well, Solitaire, listening to this in the editing room, surprise, she took it.
The backgrounds in particular are definitely a thing where you could either just try and get a favor from someone or put up a bounty or even try learning how to draw basic backgrounds yourself, because it's not too difficult to draw a couple of straight lines in against a flat background.
Also, just as a placeholder, you could just like take some stock photos and then apply filters on it. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, that's what stock photos are there for. The concept in general, going from like the idol concert to surprise you get the boner, is fine. I feel like the weird transitional scene where like that, I believe they're orange colored like ghost, the orange semi-transparent assistant character that just takes you to her room, that could have all just been covered with a few lines of narration or something, because this epilogue's already narration heavy as well. And instead, you could have more of that build-up of you, like, talking to Miku beforehand, if you want to, like, try and sell this idea of, like, you have such a connection with her. And then, another little bit of critique is, I think the dialogue could use a second pass. It's not bad, but it does feel a bit first draft, if you know what I mean. You could definitely do with like just typing out the whole thing as a script and then posting it in the epilogue channel and waiting a few days for people to go over it and make suggestions. In general, though, I think most people that like play it will just think, that was a nice little extra thing. So the main thing I'm suggesting getting rid of is the plagiarized backgrounds, because they just don't fit for Miku. And then, tightening up the dialogue. That's my 2 main things.
Can you think of any specific instances?
For the dialogue?
Yeah.
The narration of the concert itself felt a bit loosey-goosey. Like, some of the sentences were a bit run-on or comma-spliced, and it felt a bit like, oh yeah, she's doing a performance. Well, that's over with. Get it out of the way. Miku's actual dialogue during the sex scenes also felt a bit... Would she really talk like that?
Yeah.
It kind of matches what she was like during the game of SPNatI, so I guess it's, consistent in that regard. But I do feel like with the player, she's intimate with one person now, the player. Her way of speaking should maybe change a little bit to reflect that.
It's a little porny. It's a little show don't tell. It's like, oh, player, it's so good. I'm coming. It's like, you show it a little bit.
I was going to say it felt a bit stock porny, sometimes, like what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Quick things I want to add. You covered a lot of it. Like the narration, like there's a setup for it. Like, hey, you want to come to my concert? Okay, I went to the concert. Okay, I go to a back room. Hey, do you want to fuck? Like, that's so fast that it honestly, you're probably just better off with no setup at all. Like, you honestly could have just like cut straight to you fucking her, and nobody would complain. Like, it didn't really add much because it was so bare bones. You know, like you go to see her sing, but she doesn't actually sing at all. And then it says like the one thing that really made me laugh was like you and Miku have a conversation. It slowly becomes more lewd, and it's like, am I reading the script? Like,
Yeah.
is that like your notes beforehand? Like, can you actually write that? That reminds me of like George Lucas showing off the script for Revenge of the Sith, and he's like, "Yeah, there's a lot of they fight in there." I think that's also that's like classic writing advice for like writing a fight scene or something. Like if you can summarize the fight scene with "they fight," then it's not a good scene.
Yeah.
Last thing is that like when she's blowing you, I know it's hard to get it right exactly the perspective, but you look really weird. You have like a really big, I don't even know, like groin or taint or something, and your legs are really small and off to the side. Perspective doesn't quite work. It's probably here somewhere. Okay, it has to be constructed. Doesn't quite look right. Legs, man. What can I say? They're hard. First person legs.
Speaking of legs, there was one note I accidentally skipped over, which is I don't think the rotation of Miku's legs when she's riding you, I don't think it's like rotating from the right point. Like with epilogue assets, you can
like the hip.
Yeah, like with epilogue assets, you can change the like point of origin, which it'll rotate around. And I think it's slightly broken in the epilogue because like her thighs kind of go horizontal.
What is it like? Rotating from the middle? You think?
Yeah, I think it's rotating from too far down. Should be relatively easy to fix.
I think the animation itself was relatively smooth, for what it's worth.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, Miku's epilogue, either of you? It was kind of funny when she said that I'm digital, so I can't get pregnant, despite the fact that you can fuck her.
Ruined my day, I swear.
Just wanted to get Miku pregnant. You do become her manager.
Can a man not dream?
Made me think of Blade Runner 2049. Everybody on 4chan loved that movie because he has his virtual waifu.
Latke, any thoughts?
I think I covered everything.
All right. Well, we have one final topic for episode 76. Nord?
Toph Beifong from Avatar: The Last Airbender is now on the main roster. After a couple of months on testing and through sponsorship, Spaceman has done it again with his newest character. Latke, what do you think about Toph?
Alright, just like to start with some like general thoughts. I like really enjoyed her poses. Like I feel like they got like this good cartoony, not like exaggerated cartoony, but just like I wrote good cartoony energy, like the exaggerate, like some of the like poses of the exaggerated custom mouse. I thought those were really good. I also feel like her writing those gives a good sense of her personality. Like I wrote down, like she feels like in between like meaner and arrogant characters and more like tomboyish ones. So I got a decent amount. Like I learned a decent amount of her source without being too overbearing, but I felt like she was bringing up, like I talked about this earlier, but I feel like she was bringing up her friends a lot. A bit too much, I think, just personally. Also, when it comes to like I think she, like, more like general critique, I think she needs more forefront lines. Like I feel like there's this one that just went like a shorter one, like it just went yeah, and I feel like that I got that one repeating a lot. It could just be luck, but maybe worth something looking at. Also feel like there were a lot of ones that were just like longer, more like she could use more in between the shorter noise ones and more like detailed type forefront lines, because there are like a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
And also got like in my test game, there was during the opponent forfeiting opponent forfeiting case, masturbating case, whatever you want to call it. I got stuck with a misplay once, but either way, I think so. There were that line repeated a lot, but either way, I think some more opponent masturbating lines could help. That's what got out of her.
It's funny that you say she talks about her friends too much, because in my test game, she didn't really talk about them at all.
It could just be luck then for me.
No, I didn't see much of that either, except for like Katara a little bit.
I heard maybe my metric for too much was a little strict in this case, because I don't know, it was like 3-4 times. Maybe it was just, I think it was not too much of a problem, but I wrote it down anyway, so I thought I'd bring it up. If it's just something I experienced, then it's probably not something that needs to be worked on, I guess.
I know, I had her next to Takatoshi, who was doing it constantly, so
Fair
maybe that
point.
just made it seem better. I don't know. I haven't seen Avatar. Katara does seem pretty cute, so I don't really care if she talks about her.
Katara is very cute. I think Spaceman's reluctant to consider someone adding her, though, because not wanting to NTR, like, Katara's love interest, Aang. And
But it's okay to NTR fucking Sokka or whoever it is. That Toph likes.
Well,
Is that what you're telling me?
Toph doesn't actually get together with Sokka, but
No?
it's no.
My boy doesn't
Whereas-
get any? I'm just assuming he's my boy. I've never seen the show. Seems like he'd be my boy.
He is. No, I think it's implied he gets together with another character, Suki. They're like madly in love all the time after Sokka gets over his first girlfriend turning into the moon. It makes sense in context.
That's rough, buddy.
Yeah. Toph in general has
Do you think it'd be a turnoff for you dating a blind girl? Would you like to? Because you wish you could make eye contact with her, and it's not just like going in different directions.
I'd probably date someone who's blind if with like the rest of our interests somehow aligned, but being a like nerd that's quite reliant on visual media, I don't know if that would happen.
Hey, honey, do you want to read my SPNatI dialogue? Oh wait. Oh no. You want to watch this anime with me?
So, Toph was added into the game over a year ago, actually. A year and a month, actually. I just had actually a lot.
Yes, she's had quite the troubled development history.
She's gone through a lot of like almost constant art reworks. Like, it almost feels like as soon as one art rework is done, Spaceman gets another batch of feedback and then completely overhauled her art from the ground up again.
And that's what kept her up.
I think her final look, that's what kept her on testing for so long, yeah. I think her final look is a really good like post-series, sort of like post-comics adaptation. Because like the series, you know, has its ending, and then there's comics that continue the story to bridge the gap between the ending of Last Airbender and Legend of Korra, the sequel series. The three versions we see of Toph in canon are like teenager, middle-aged adult who is a police officer, and like 80-year-old grandma who's a free spirit that lives in the woods.
Yo, elderly edition?
For real. Although it was likely very painful for SPNanon to go through this so many times, the art is highly
For
polished.
SPNanon to go through this?
Yes. Congratulations SPNanon, on another great
I
character.
have become the mask. I've made a character from a show I never watched.
I made this.
Spaceman went through so much trouble for Toph's art. The custom mouths are like so seamless. Like sometimes an attempt at a custom mouth, you notice it's custom straight away, but these are like seamless. You barely notice that they're not Kiseki defaults. As weird as that sounds to like praise it for, but they work perfectly. The posing in general is great. good choice for like all the clothing and the body details and all the art in general. A lot of the sponsorships stuff she went through has also like really had her capitalize on the fact that she is blind. She is quote unquote seeing people using like tremor sense. So there's some specific dialogue she has, especially towards like characters that are getting, turned on. It's like, feel your heart rate increasing. Okay, pervert. Do you have any thoughts on that, spnanon?
I have given my thoughts on Toph like twice now. Once for her initial release, another for a return to testing, and now for the main roster. So I'll try to. I don't think I'll say too much. I feel like I missed out. Everyone jerks off Avatar now. I think I was the right age to see it when it came out, but I just didn't. So it's too late. The damage is done. What is done cannot be undone.
It's not too late to see it, and you have the benefit of being like knowing.
You had to be there, man. But yeah, like much like someone who was blind from birth, I think Toph as a project has had to overcome a lot of challenges, and I'm glad to see Spaceman finally do it. He's had to rework her art a bunch because I roasted him on the podcast about how she wasn't boxy enough, and like people said she wasn't sexual enough, and every other week he just got people bitching about how she was too young and will always be too young, and calling him a pedophile because he was sexualizing this character, and it just never ended. And he still gets it on like the feedback poll and stuff. But I think he has taken great pains to age her up in a pretty reasonable way while keeping the identity of the character.
It's always going to be the elephant in the room for this, because there will be people who only watch the show and like remember her from their childhood, like when they watched Avatar once, and then they're normal people, so they didn't watch it ever again. They didn't get obsessed with it. Like people who like me and Spaceman, who watched it multiple times. But all they'll remember is Toph being young, and like so even though Spaceman has gone through the comics and taking great pains to like work all of this out and make as much effort as he can, people are always going to comment on it, and the best I can really say to him is just try and ignore it, because like you've done a great job. Most people would say, yeah, you've aged her up significantly and like she's fine. And there are always people that are like, no matter what you do, unless you make Grandma Toph, they're never going to be happy.
Those people will never be happy even with Grandma Toph, because they'll just be like, oh, well, you sexualized the character who was once a child. I mean, you'll get canceled for fucking just anime in general because they call it like child coded or whatever. Okay. Anyone who complains about that shit is not a quote unquote normal person. They're just like Twitter babies. Twitter is not a real place. Don't go on Twitter. Don't listen to anyone who's on Twitter. Okay. They're all dumb.
Don't you mean X?
I know what you're thinking, right? Well, I know this person on Twitter. They're not dumb. I'm on Twitter. I'm not dumb. You are dumb. You're using Twitter, therefore you are dumb. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. But I am about to end this podcast unless any of you have any final thoughts on on Toph or any of the other questions or topics that we have today.
Just like, I guess I haven't watched like Avatar, so just on her betrayal in the game, I didn't feel like get any underage vibes or anything like that. Like I think, like he's done like a good job on that.
Random thing for me to think of, but having her meteorite bracelet that she can like earthband as a demonstration was one of the best ideas that everyone came up with for Toph, because it's a sentimental trinket that she gets in the show, and of course she'd have it all these years later, and it's the perfect way to show off, yeah, I have these spiritual earth molding powers without having to do background specific stuff of like, Oh, guys, this is wooden floors. I can't do that. Sorry.
Does she lift rocks on any outside backgrounds?
She should.
Baseman, are you listening? I always ignored backgrounds, but ever since the marathon, when I had to target them, I got a little more attuned to them. I liked writing lines for like outside backgrounds and like water backgrounds and stuff where Maya would really enjoy herself for various reasons.
I love background lines.
Like even in like the haunted forest, you're supposed to be like scared with the ghosts or whatever, and Maya's just like, oh, so this is what life on the surface is like. Oh, I love the clean, fresh air. So cold, it's great.
She does have some token references to not being able to see very well on sand, which is, tracks for her. We need a rocky field background.
So, thanks for coming on, Latke. Thanks for coming on, Nord, as always. Anything at the very end here that you'd like to plug or comment on? Anything? Any hopes for the future or any future plans?
Keep it a surprise for now.
That's right. Keep the surprise for next time. Nord?
If you look at me for more than 5 minutes, I'll tell you everything about everything I'm doing in my life. So, just ask. I don't need to repeat it here.
Am I going to get the Xenoblade lore today or the Kingdom Hearts lore?
Both.
Can't wait till they have a crossover.
Smash Brothers.
Oh yeah, I guess so, right? Yeah. Okay. The last one I played was Brawl. Okay, our big final secret character was Wolf with his third Landmaster. Thanks for coming on, Latke. Thanks for coming on, Nord. All I can say is, yeah, good job, Spaceman, finally getting Toph across the finish line. I'd say, as always and eternally, it's another win for Tomboy Nation.